Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. This Saturday is UFC London, a stacked UFC fight night card. And in the main event, we have a very important heavyweight fight, Curtis Blaydes versus Tom Aspinall. And this is going to be my full breakdown and prediction. And I'm really looking forward to this fight because both guys are so evenly matched. Both guys are super well-rounded. Both guys are elite level heavyweights. And we don't have too many of those nowadays. The division is kind of shallow. I mean, the division is super top heavy. You have Francis Ngannou, you have Stipe Miocic, John Jones, Cyril Gane, Tai Tuivasa, and these guys. And then after that, it really falls off a cliff. Heavyweight division has been notorious for being, have a lack of talent throughout the years. And the reason I talk about that is because I believe you're never more than 2 big wins away from a heavyweight title shot. And obviously, we have to see how the division moves forward with Francis Ngannou's injury, John Jones potentially making his heavyweight debut, and all that debacle. But I really believe you could see the winner of this fight potentially fighting for a UFC heavyweight title in the next year or so. So this is a massive fight for both guys, and I can't wait to see how it turns out. And this is a very tough fight to predict. I had a tough time nailing down my prediction for this fight. So if you look at the tail of the tape for this fight, Curtis Blaydes is ranked number 4 in the UFC official rankings. Tom Aspinall ranked number 6. Blaydes is 31. Aspinall is 29. Blaydes is 6'4". Aspinall is 6'5". Blaydes has an 80-inch reach and Aspinall has a 78-inch reach. So a slight reach advantage for Curtis Blaydes and a very, very slight height advantage for Tom Aspinall. So if you look at Curtis Blaydes, he has 20 pro MMA fights, 16 wins and 3 losses. And of those 16 wins, he has 11 wins by knockout, which, actually was kind of shocking. I forgot that Curtis Blaydes has finished quite a few fights and has some decent power in his hands. His most recent fight was against Chris Daukaus in March of this year. He KO'd Chris Daukaus. He was winning this fight, but he clipped him badly, dropped him, fouled him to the ground, and finished him off. Solid win, but it's Chris Daukaus. He had just got KO'd by Derek Lewis, I think, in December, so only a couple months prior. Not a massive win for Curtis Blaydes. Before that, he fought Jairzinho Rozenstruik at UFC 266, and this was exactly what I expected. Curtis Blaydes just went out there and out-grappled him. Jairzinho Rozenstruik has always had issues with being taken down and controlled, and this is what happened in the fight. Curtis Blaydes just took him down, controlled him for all 3 rounds, and won via decision. His last loss was against Derek Lewis back in February of 2021. I actually picked Curtis Blaydes to win this fight. He was winning this fight. He was pumping the jab. He was winning in the striking department. I thought he was going to mix in the grappling, and Derek Lewis just caught him with an uppercut. And Derek Lewis has ungodly power, and he put Curtis Blaydes out cold. And this was a brutal loss for him because this was a very important fight for him at this point in time too. And then before that, he defeated Alexander Volkov, an opponent in common with Tom Aspinall, and basically just beat him, out-grappled him in this fight. The cardio didn't look great in this fight, but he was just able to control Volkov on the ground. Volkov had some moments in this fight, but primarily, Curtis Blaydes won this fight with his grappling. He has a TKO win over Junior Dos Santos. I don't know how much to make of that because Junior Dos Santos was out of his prime at this point in time, but it was still a quality win, and to go out there and do it striking was massive for Curtis Blaydes. One other thing I want to mention about Curtis Blaydes is throughout his entire MMA career, he's only ever lost to 2 guys, and that is Francis Ngannou, who he's lost to twice and been finished by twice, and also Derek Lewis. So he's only losing to these guys with elite level power. And honestly, who knows? If he doesn't get KO'd by Derek Lewis or Francis Ngannou, there's a chance he could have won those fights. And if he doesn't get clipped and KO'd, there's a chance, for all we know, Curtis Blaydes is UFC heavyweight champion in an alternate dimension. And it's crazy that out of all of his fights, and he's fought some decent competition, not the greatest competition, but some decent competition. And the only 2 losses are to Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou, who he's fought twice. And Francis Ngannou is the UFC heavyweight champion. So if you look over at Tom Aspinall, he has 14 pro MMA fights, 12 wins, 2 losses. Out of his 12 wins, he has 9 wins by knockout. So we see how he likes to finish fights as well. You look at his resume, hasn't fought the best competition. And his last fight, he fought Alexander Volkov. This was March of this year at UFC London. So he's headlining back-to-back events, and he's being very active. He just fought March 19th of this year, and now he's already coming back into action July 23rd. And I actually picked against him in this fight. And I thought that Tom Aspinall could win, but I just said, I thought he hadn't fought the elite of the elite competition, and I was just a little bit wondering about his skill set because, it's easy to look good against, some of these lesser guys, but when you start to get, a step up in competition, and this was a massive step up in competition, it's when we really find out where your skills are. And boy, did he put on an amazing performance. He dominated Volkov in every aspect and finished him with a straight armbar at the end of the first round, towards the end of the first round. But he lit him up on the feet as well. I don't really think he got touched in this fight. I think I only remember him getting hit like one time in this entire fight by Volkov. And Volkov has very good striking, and he just went out there, outclassed him on the feet, took him down, and was able to submit him. I mean, Tom Aspinall dominated him on the ground. He took him down twice in the first round, and the first time he looked for a submission, it wasn't there. He let it go, kneed him in the stomach as he was on his way up against the cage, and then just eventually shot in on another takedown, got him down, was elbowing him. He's showing good ground and pound, and eventually got that straight armbar, which you need serious strength to get a straight armbar on a guy like Alexander Volkov. And it was a dominant win to go out there in all facets, in the striking, not to really get touched, to land, to then take him down, control him on the ground, beat him up on the ground with some good ground and pound, and then eventually get the submission. And then he even gets up and you get him right back down again, after some more striking where you're winning. It just showed how well-rounded Tom Aspinall is, and it also showed that he can hang with the elite of the division, even though I think Volkov is maybe a little bit of maybe a step away from being considered the elite of the elite in the division. Before that, a win over Sergey Spivak. I don't know really what to make of that. I mean, Sergey Spivak is a decent fighter, and again, the heavyweight division is lackluster, but finishes him as well with a nasty, standing elbow, I think it was, that dropped him, put him down, finished him off on the ground. First round finish as well. He gets a lot of first round finishes. Before that, he beat Andrei Arlovsky. And what's crazy about this fight, he was dominating in the first round. It got to the second round. In 6 seconds, this is how fast Tom Aspinall is. In 6 seconds, they went from standing and trading in the center of the cage to Tom Aspinall having him tap out from a rear naked choke. That's how quick it was. He shot it on a double leg, took Andrei Arlovsky down with ease. And then as Andrei Arlovsky started to put his hands on the mat to kind of turn his back and get up against the cage, Tom Aspinall locked up a rear naked. I don't even think he had a hook in. If he did, he just had one, and made Andrei Arlovsky tap. But again, this is Andrei Arlovsky out of his prime. But Arlovsky has shown he's still a tough out in the heavyweight division, so this was a solid win. Outside of that, I mean, not great wins here. Alec Badeau, Jake Collier, finished them both in the first round as well. He's undefeated in the UFC. His only losses come, his last loss was all the way in 2016 to a guy I've never even heard of. But Tom Aspinall has shown that he is constantly improving, and I think he's a heavyweight that looks super athletic and fast. And I think this could be one of those new breeds of heavyweight. Like a lot of people talk about Cyril Gane as a new breed of heavyweight instead of this huge, guy that's just got a lot of muscles and super strong and has nasty power. Tom Aspinall looks like he's just a great overall athlete. And I really think a lot of people, and also a lot of people agree with me, that Tom Aspinall could be a future champion. He's super well-rounded. So when I look at this fight, I see a very even matchup between Tom Aspinall and Curtis Blaydes. And I think this is a fight that is very tough to pick because, you look at both guys, we don't know where Tom Aspinall's gas tank is. That's one thing that I really question about Tom Aspinall. Curtis Blaydes, we've seen him go 5 rounds, but the cardio, it hasn't looked that great. I mean, he's went 5 rounds. It's not like he got finished, but he just hasn't looked that great in a 5-round fight against particularly Alexander Volkov. You look at that opponent in common, and I know MMA math does not work, but Curtis Blaydes struggled with Volkov, and he only won by decision. And Tom Aspinall went out there and destroyed him. And you look at past the victory for both guys, I really could see, pretty much a bunch of different paths to victory for both guys. I could see both guys winning by decision. I could see both guys winning by KO or TKO. I could see Tom Aspinall winning by a potential submission. I doubt Curtis Blaydes would get a potential, submission, but there's just multiple avenues to victory. Both guys are super well-rounded. That's what makes this fight so hard to pick. I think both guys are good wrestlers. If I had to give the wrestling edge in this fight, I would probably give a wrestling edge to Curtis Blaydes. And also, as far as stand-up goes, Curtis Blaydes, a lot of his stand-up, is predicated on the threat of the takedown. So he was able to finish JDS on the feet because JDS was worried about his takedown. I don't know if Tom Aspinall has very good wrestling, but we haven't seen it tested against a guy who is as good as a grappler and wrestler as Curtis Blaydes. So it's really tough to choose who's going to win this fight, because I think what is going to happen, I think Curtis Blaydes is going to come out, and I think he's going to look to wrestle against Tom Aspinall. And it just comes down to the question is he able to get Tom Aspinall down, control him on the ground? And I don't think that's going to happen. I am going to go, my official prediction is going to be Tom Aspinall via second round TKO. I think Curtis Blaydes, is going to come out and look to take him down. He might even get him down. But I think Tom Aspinall is so athletic. He's so fast. He's strong on the ground. He's strong in the clinch. And I know Curtis Blaydes is a massive heavyweight. I think he cuts weight to get down to heavyweight. But I just don't think he's going to be able to control Tom Aspinall, even if he gets him there. And also, I think the speed, the footwork, the feints of Tom Aspinall are going to lead. It's going to be very hard for Curtis Blaydes to get him down. And I think what this fight really comes down to, for me personally, when I made this prediction, is the hand speed of Tom Aspinall. The guy has nasty power, and the speed of his hands is something you do not see at heavyweight. And I think Curtis Blaydes, his striking has looked okay, but it's been kind of covered up by his wrestling. Guys are so worried about the takedowns that Curtis Blaydes looks good on the feet. I think Tom Aspinall is far superior in the striking department, and I think a combination of the speed, the footwork, and just the power of Tom Aspinall being able to avoid the takedowns. I think he's going to be strong in the clinch as well. I think Curtis Blaydes is going to try to clinch him, going to try to take him down. I think Tom Aspinall is going to be able to avoid that. And even if he does get taken down, I think he's going to be able to explode back to his feet. And Tom Aspinall, one thing I've noticed rewatching some of his fights, he has a very high fight IQ. He went for the Kimura on Volkov in the first round, or after the first takedown in the first round of the Volkov fight, and he realized he wasn't getting it. He immediately let it go. He didn't blow out his arms. And then as Volkov was getting up, he landed a nasty knee to the body, and he just makes great decisions. When he hurts a guy, he goes in for the kill, but he's not a guy that's going to go out there and gas himself out looking for a finish. Tom Aspinall makes great decisions, and he just looks like he's in the prime of his career, and every time out, he looks ever improving. And I think in this fight, he'll be able to stuff the takedowns of Curtis Blaydes. I think he'll look good in the clinch against Curtis Blaydes. I think his striking is much superior. I think his hands are too fast. And I think as he gets the timing of Curtis Blaydes, I think eventually he will clip him and put him out in the second round. I think Tom Aspinall is too fast, and he has a variety of attacks. I think Tom Aspinall is going to come out there. He's going to be chopping the legs of Curtis Blaydes. He's going to be circling around the cage. He has great footwork. He has great head movement, great feints. And I think Curtis Blaydes is going to have trouble tracking him down. And I think eventually, Curtis Blaydes has good takedowns, but they're kind of slow, and sometimes the shots are kind of, telegraphed. Derek Lewis saw it coming a mile away. Plus, his opponents know what he's trying to do. And I think Tom Aspinall is going to be circling around the cage, getting the timing, landing some good shots with his hands. I think Curtis Blaydes is going to be trying to strike. Maybe he'll land some shots. He has good power, too. He could put Tom Aspinall out. But I think as Tom Aspinall just circles around, lands some good shots, eventually the takedowns, Curtis Blaydes is going to get a little bit more, I don't want to say desperate, but a little bit more active looking for the takedowns. And Tom Aspinall is going to see him coming. He's going to stuff him, and he's going to be forced to strike with Tom Aspinall. And I think eventually he's just going to get that timing down of Curtis Blaydes. And as Curtis Blaydes maybe looks to, initiate a clinch or look for a takedown, I think Tom Aspinall is going to clip him with a big shot and just put him down and finish him off via TKO. And I think this is going to be a very compelling fight, because this is the toughest test of Tom Aspinall's career. Curtis Blaydes, we've seen him against some great heavyweights. Tom Aspinall, the really only toughest test of his career right now is Alexander Volkov, which he passed with flying colors. But Curtis Blaydes is going to come in, test the wrestling of him, test the striking of him, and we're going to really get a good idea of where Tom Aspinall's skills lie. And I already think Tom Aspinall could be a future title holder, or at least a title contender at the bare minimum. But we're really going to find out against a guy, we know where Curtis Blaydes' skill set is. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, and thank you so much for watching.